It's time for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the show focusing on fishing, hunting, outdoor recreation, destinations, and conservation in the region where you live and play. Northwestern Outdoors is brought to you by Max Lure Company, Sportsman's Warehouse, Stehekin Valley Ranch, and Wallowa County. And now, let's see what's going on in the field and on the water with your host, John Cruz.
As you can hear, we've got a very special program for you this week. We are broadcasting from duck blinds and boats on eastern Washington's Potholes Reservoir for a fall cast and blast adventure. Our host is Shelby Ross. He's the owner of Ross Outdoor Adventures, and as you just heard, he blows a pretty mean duck call. During the next hour, we're going to take you through a day of guided duck hunting and walleye fishing here. Our fellow hunters are my son, and when he's not off to college at Central Washington University, he's also the assistant producer of this show. His name, David Cruz. The other hunter on board today is crack shot and longtime friend, Northwestern Outdoors pro staffer Rusty Johnston, who just happens to live within a mile or two from where we're fishing and hunting today. Later on, we'll be joined by Dave Mason. He does marketing work in Spokane through E2 Media for Toyota, and he is an avid hunter and angler. Over the course of this show, we'll talk about the long-running duck taxi service that took us to our blind this morning and how Shelby took this over in recent years. We'll take you hunting with us. We'll see if we get any birds, and after the hunt, we'll take a little break. And Bob Loomis with Max Lure Company will step in with a suggestion on a great lure to use this fall, not only here at Potholes Reservoir, but at reservoirs all over the greater Northwest for hungry walleye. And then we're going fishing with Shelby in his spacious boat for some of those walleye, along with some bonus fish too. And we are hoping some of those bonus fish are going to be some of the big largemouth and smallmouth bass found in this lake. In addition to this, we've got your Sportsman's Warehouse Trivia Question of the Week coming up towards the end of the show, your chance to expand your knowledge about the great outdoors, and also a chance to win the $25 gift card we give away every week from America's premier outfitter. Finally, we'll take a little time to ponder as a group why less people seem to be hunting and fishing these days, and how we might be able to get more folks out in the field and out on the water to enjoy some of the great fun we're having this autumn day. But before we take you back to the duck blind for some hunting and out onto the lake for some fishing on a calm, sunny, and beautiful October day, let's check in with David Sparks and see what he's got in store for us this week on Sportsman Spotlight.
Josh Mills with a look at November's elections. David Sparks, Sportsman Spotlight.
As a sportsman or woman coming up in this next very critical voting period coming up in November, one of the things you want to consider, besides all the other things that go into your decision-making process, really take a long and hard look about how politicians you have voted for or potentially are voting for in the past or upcoming view public lands as an issue. There are certain politicians out there who don't hold it of value. And if you like being out there in the woods using public lands and not having to rely on private lands for your outdoor recreation, think about if they support federal to state land transfer, if they voted well for clean water, clean air, and things that are absolutely necessary for the enjoyment and the experience of anybody who hikes, hunts, kayaks, fishes, mountain bikes, anything like that. Are they providing more opportunity for you as a person who loves the outdoors? Because really, what we have to do is make our voices heard at the ballot box this coming November. Too long, sportsmen and women have sat idly by and not considered the impact of what our votes count for. As a group, are worth billions of renewable jobs, renewable resources, and economic impact to our local community. The truth of the matter is that public lands know no party. It's how you want to gift the greatest gift that we have as a nation for outdoor access, and how do we want to keep it going forever.
Preserve the purest form of freedom.
The ability to walk out of your truck and walk for miles and not have to worry about whose land you're on.
Sure hope you enjoyed this edition of Sportsman Spotlight. I'm David Sparks.
Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, a nationwide group working to keep public lands in public hands. We've helped ban the use of drones for hunting. We help repair wildlife corridors in key riparian areas. We speak up against illegal ATV use. Please join this dynamic conservation group. Check us out at backcountryhunters.org.
Cast and blast your way across eastern Washington's Columbia Basin this fall with guide Shelby Ross. Shelby is an expert when it comes to walleye and bass in Potholes Reservoir, Moses Lake, and Banks Lake. Shelby can also take you out on a field hunt for geese or out for a morning of duck hunting and a lunch of kabobs. Trust me, you'll love it. Can't decide whether to cast or blast? Go on a combo trip. Book now at potholesfishing.com or ducktaxi.com. That's potholesfishing or ducktaxi.com.
If you eat, then agriculture is important to you. And if you need to stay up to date on what's going on in agriculture, then tune to the Ag Information Network of the West. Fewer and fewer farmers and ranchers are feeding more and more people globally. We cover the issues from the field to the floor of the house and beyond. You can depend on the Ag Information Network for the information and stories you need. Join us online at aginfo.net and now on Facebook and Twitter. For Ag News, tune to the Ag Information Network of the West.
Imagine a cool September day. You head out to the pasture and spot a single female louse on one steer. You think it's no big deal, but come January, there could be 1 million lice crawling on that animal. Lice reproduce like rabbits and spread like wildfire. That's why Cleanup 2 Pour-On insecticide with IGR has an added insect growth regulator so you can kill adult lice and their eggs with one application on cattle. Learn more at cleanupyourcattle.com.
That's right. You're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're broadcasting from a duck blind at Potholes Reservoir in eastern Washington. The man blowing that duck call is Shelby Ross. With us in the blind today is my son, David Cruz, an assistant producer for the show, and my best friend, Rusty Johnston, who is also a longtime pro staffer for Northwestern Outdoors. Shelby, thanks for taking us hunting today.
Thanks for joining us.
So, Shelby, been a fun morning so far. Got a few ducks in the bag. We got mallards. We've got teal. We've had some bufflehead fly in, and we've missed a couple, too.
That happens occasionally. We try to get them close so it's an easier shot, but occasionally they get away once in a while.
Well, folks, Shelby is the consummate professional as a guide, and I've got a little secret to share with you. You see, the Cruzes may not be the best shots in the world. We're very enthusiastic about our shooting, but we don't always connect. So thank you for saying that, yes, sometimes they get away despite our best efforts.
That'll happen once in a while.
Again, the consummate professional. Well, let's talk about your operation here. You basically took over the famed duck taxi from the Meesberg family. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about this long-running operation?
So I think the duck taxi's been operating on Potholes since the 50s, and primarily as a non-guided taxi service, hence the name, that delivers the hunters to blinds, sets the decoys for them, and then they do their own self-guided hunt. We also offer guided hunts as well, but the non-guided is primarily what most people are after.
And you actually did take some non-guided hunters out, and they've been getting some shooting this morning. And yes, it's great. You've got these beautiful blinds. You've got the decoys set up for them. But I'll be honest, you know, the guided hunts have evolved into something special. And we're going to tell you why, because it goes beyond just the expert call, and it goes beyond the great Labrador retriever you have, Tank, who's been making quite a few retrieves for us today. It goes beyond the great blind and everything else that comes with this. You've got something called duck kabobs.
The duck kabobs are a long-running tradition, and they've evolved over the years as well. It used to be just you'd fillet a duck or two and string them on a stick, and then at some point we added some bacon to it, and then some vegetables. And about 6 or 7 years ago, I saw a show dove hunting in Argentina, and they were making dove poppers, and half a jalapeno filled with cream cheese, and they were using a chunk of dove. We used duck, and wrapped in honey maple bacon, and it is fabulous.
Are you hungry yet? Just hearing that, folks, because I'll tell you what, I am. And we're getting to the point of the hunt fairly soon. We still got some shooting to go here, but fairly soon, you're going to be cooking those poppers right here in the blind. And again, that's just something that's really cool, is you hunt, you work up an appetite, you have a lot of fun together, and then you're cooking basically brunch for folks right here.
Our duck hunts are kind of a social event interrupted by gunfire, and it's not as serious as a big game hunt. It's the camaraderie in the blind and lunch and giving your buddy a little grief if he misses a duck and the whole experience.
Well, there has been a little bit of grief given this morning, but there's also been a few high fives and congratulations as well. Again, it's been a fun morning. We are hunting with Shelby Ross, the owner of Ross Outdoor Adventures, and we got ducks coming in. We're going to bring this to you live.
Right in front, guys. Right in front. Right in front. Get ready. Get ready. Get ready. Take him. Take him. Take him. Take him. Take him. Take him. Take him.
And that is a duck down. Outstanding. Outstanding shooting. Way to go, Rusty.
Thank you.
And a little bit of backup there by Shelby, too.
Well, occasionally you got to give them a little help when they're trying to limp away.
Well, as you're hearing, folks, this is a lot of fun being out here. But it's not just the duck hunting that's happening here in October. This actually goes right up until this big 27,000-acre reservoir freezes. And the hunting is only going to get better as those northerns start arriving in the weeks ahead.
Yeah, we're hunting primarily local birds right now. Lots of teal, some widgeon. More mallards than a normal opener. Our local production is up 30% from previous year, but not a lot of influx of new birds, just not any real weather to move them around, and it's way too nice of a day here. It's sunny and light breeze, and so we'll get weather usually about the first part of November. We start getting some weather fronts, and we'll start getting some migratory birds showing up.
And, in terms of the succession of birds, you get those teal in first, and then what? The widgeon and the gadwall, followed by the mallards and the pintail?
Yep, exactly. And pintail, we'll start to see pintail with actual pins instead of the immature birds that we're seeing now. And even some of the greenheads now don't have a green head. They're just not mature yet. But as the season goes on, more mature, a lot more bird numbers, and the teal will vamoose with the colder weather, and it becomes more of a mallard-focused shoot.
I'm hearing some geese in the distance. Now, out here in this part of eastern Washington, you can only hunt geese on certain days. What are those days, and what's the limits for geese?
So the limit for Canadian geese is 4. We can hunt them on Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday, as well as holidays. And so that's kind of challenging out here because, like, today's a Friday, you can't shoot the geese, and often they'll be in the decoys on those non-goose days. We did get a goose on Wednesday when it was open.
And that's what I was leading up to here, is you have a legitimate chance of bagging geese during these duck taxi hunts, don't you?
We get several geese each week. Just depends on the time of year. When there's more in the area, especially when they first arrive, they're easier to decoy. And, the birds are passing through here. Most of them are not living here. It's not like field hunting where you're going to go set up where they're eating. We'll have something wander by, and a lot of times you can call them in, but they're just passing through. They're a bonus bird. We're duck focused, but we get quite a few geese.
Some of those geese, and this is kind of a rare event that just happens here, I think in Washington, Oregon, there are those lesser geese, those taverner geese that come down into northern Grant County. They base at Stratford, and then they kind of fan out throughout here and eventually make their way down towards the Willamette Valley in Oregon. But they provide some real bonus shooting in November, don't they?
Yeah, they are the first geese to arrive, the first birds from the north, and they come in droves of several hundred, and they're challenging to hunt, but there's lots of them. And then as the weather gets colder, then the big honkers will show up behind them.
Getting back to the ducks, and getting back especially to the northerns, if there was a prime time to book a trip with you, what would it be? Are we talking basically between Veterans Day and the week after Thanksgiving?
It used to be that Thanksgiving was the prime time, and it seems like the last few years that prime time has moved to 10th of November, maybe mid-November, but it's earlier than it used to be years ago.
Here's the other question. Do you have any openings? I know you're a very popular guide. Any openings for this prime November time frame?
We have several weekday openings. Most of the Saturdays are pretty well full, but other than that, we've got openings.
And one other thing you're going to love about this is if you're a duck hunter like I am, you're used to getting up at like 2 or 3 in the morning and rushing out to get your spot. You don't have to do that here. you actually meet Shelby at the MarDon Resort dock anywhere between 5:30 and 6 o'clock in the morning. He takes you out here. You just walk into the blind. You sit in some chairs. You have some coffee. If it's cold out, he's got a little fire that's going for you, a little propane fire. I mean, you are going to be comfortable. You're going to see birds. You're going to have fun. And best of all, you're going to get fed at the end of the hunt. It doesn't get much better than that, Shelby.
No, it doesn't. Never gets old.
So, as we leave, let's give folks a website, and we are going to talk again about walleye fishing in just a few minutes, but what's the website if people want to go hunting with you?
Potholesfishing.com.
That's potholesfishing.com, potholesfishing.com, to book a trip with Ross Outdoor Adventures for the Potholes Duck Taxi or walleye fishing too. He does that as well. You'll hear about that in just a couple minutes right here on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Cast and blast your way across eastern Washington's Columbia Basin this fall with guide Shelby Ross. Shelby is an expert when it comes to walleye and bass in Potholes Reservoir, Moses Lake, and Banks Lake. Shelby can also take you out on a field hunt for geese or out for a morning of duck hunting and a lunch of kabobs. Trust me, you'll love it. Can't decide whether to cast or blast? Go on a combo trip. Book now at potholesfishing.com or ducktaxi.com. That's potholesfishing or ducktaxi.com.
You're back with more of the great outdoors on Northwestern Outdoors Radio with John Cruz.
It's that time again. It's time for another Max Minute, brought to you every week by Max Lure Company. With us again, Bob Loomis. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John.
Bob, we are walleye fishing this week out on Potholes Reservoir. The fishing's been really good, and I know it's turning on in reservoirs all over the greater Northwest. What's one lure you'd recommend as the water cools?
You know, this time of the year, those fish are kind of putting on the feed bag because, you know, all of your plankton, your growth along the banks, everything that hid all the bait is starting to die off. Therefore, the bait is going to different areas. These fish are trying to get anything they can get to. What I would call a great fishing tool right now is what we call the Smile Blade Spin Drift Walleye. It has a smile blade on top to give you the different types of colors to create that forage base color. It has a pill float on there to help float the bait itself, gives it a much more natural presentation, and it's got the VMC spin drift hook on it, which has that technical bend and a swivel on it, so it rotates and gives you that a dying bait fish look.
Now, I know that's meant to be fished with a crawler, but, you know, back in places like Wyoming, Montana, can you fish it with a leech?
Absolutely. You can fish it with virtually anything. You can fish it with small bait fish, leeches, you know, all sorts of different types of bait.
It's the Spin Drift Walleye. Consider it for your fall fishing needs for walleye. This is a great time of year to go out for them, and they are some of the tastiest fish you're ever going to catch. Find out more about the Spin Drift Walleye at maxlure.com or just go to your local sporting goods store and pick up one or three. Walleye anglers all over the Northwest are raving about the new Smile Blade Spin Drift Walleye Lure made by Max Lure Company. Lance Mers is with us here to tell us more about it.
This lure is fantastic. We've got the patented Smile Blade. We've got a pill float that keeps it just off of the bottom where the fish like to bite. And that Spin Drift hook is absolutely phenomenal. You can tip it with any kind of bait.
Tip it with a crawler, tip it with a leech, whatever you tip it with, it's going to catch more fish. It's the Smile Blade Spin Drift Walleye Lure, only from Max Lure Company.
Sportsman's Warehouse is America's premier outfitter, and with over 90 locations, you're sure to find a store near you full of the gear you need to succeed this hunting season. Firearms, ammo, archery equipment, decoys, clothing, boots, and more. You'll find it all at Sportsman's Warehouse. Better still, the knowledgeable staff can help you with tips and frequent in-store seminars, all designed to help you bag a trophy or a limit this hunting season. Find a location near you or shop online today at sportsmanswarehouse.com.
One of the things I love about Stehekin Valley Ranch is their back-by-dinner adventures. Go on a guided kayaking trip on Lake Chelan, ride a horse with a wrangler to a mountain lake, or rent an electric bike to explore the valley and experience the beauty of Rainbow Falls. There's also fishing, hiking, wildlife watching, or just relaxing and soaking in the beauty that nature has to offer. Finish it off with a fantastic dinner and save room for the pie. Find out more at StehekinValleyRanch.com.
I'm gonna jig me up a walleye from the bottom of the lake, and I'm not gonna tell you what I use for bait.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We continue to broadcast from Potholes Reservoir. We have been having a cast and blast day with guide Shelby Ross, the owner of Ross Outdoor Adventures. Earlier in the show, you heard the blast of our duck hunt. Now we are trolling for walleye. Shelby, it's been a fun day.
Beautiful October day and nice weather, and getting a few walleye.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, you got me into one right off the bat. Nice 2-3 pounder. My son David's got a nice walleye too, and I suspect we've got a few more coming our way before this day's over.
We've got a few hours of daylight left. No reason we shouldn't be able to get several more.
Let's talk a little bit about walleye fishing here on Potholes Reservoir, and for that matter, walleye fishing in general during the October-November time frame. And I'm not talking just about potholes. I'm talking about any reservoir in the greater Northwest where you can find walleye, whether it be in Montana, Wyoming, Washington, or even Idaho. How do you like going about catching these fish? Because you fish in all these states for them.
Well, our fall fishery, to me, is the best fishing of the year. The reservoir's drawn down from spring. We're drawn down almost 20 feet, so that concentrates the fish, so a lot less area to have to hunt for them. They're just bigger across the board because they've been feeding all summer long on all the bait fish in the lake, and you start getting these cool fall nights, and it triggers to the fish that winter's coming, and they start feeding up for winter. So they really are aggressive as far as eating, and so it makes them easier to catch.
And how do you like to catch them? I mean, we're using bottom bouncers today, and I'm fishing basically a night crawler behind a chartreuse max smile blade. But what else do you like to do this time of year? And clearly, this is effective what we're doing.
Early in the fall, it's a crankbait bite, and we're trolling shad wraps and flicker shads. And you can really cover a bunch of water at, 2.2 to 2.5 miles an hour, along with the planer boards. You cover 10 times the water versus bottom bouncing a night crawler. And, if you can do that with water temperatures are warm enough early in the fall, you cover so much more water. It's just really an effective method. And the fish pretty much hook themselves.
You're absolutely right. Great early fall technique, but we're into mid-fall here, and I know you are a pro guide for Max Lure Company, and you're a big believer in their product line. Again, we just mentioned the Smile Blade, but there's other things you like to use from Max Lure Company this time of year too, isn't there?
Yeah, the Smile Blade slow death rigs are a mainstay, and now with the new super death rigs are even better. I like the bigger hook, and I like to fish a great big jumbo night crawler, and here in the last week and a half, a super death rig with a motor oil 0.8 or 1.1 smile blade or chartreuse mirror smile blade have been the ticket. They've outproduced every other method.
We need to hold on here for a second because I might be getting a bite here, Shelby, so hang tight real quick. And there we go. Oh, unfortunately, the host lost the fish. Tragically off the Max Lure Smile Blade, by the way, so we'll see if he comes back. We'll continue our conversation. And it's a good thing this is radio, because, Shelby, you're really giving me a dirty look right now for some reason.
If you miss 12 in a row, there's a night crawler surcharge.
All right, good to know. In the meantime, I will try to pay more attention to my rod while we are talking here. Hopefully one of your other guests on this boat is going to get one while we're talking as well. Again, folks, the bite is really good throughout the fall, especially here at Potholes Reservoir, but all sorts of other reservoirs around the greater Northwest. So one thing I want to talk about, we were talking about trolling crankbaits, higher speeds. You're slowing down your trolling speed this time of year. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at what we're doing right now. We're only going a mile per hour.
0.9 to 1 has just been the sweet spot for about the last 5 days. 56-degree water temperature. It's just slowly ratcheting down. We've had several nights in the low 30s. So the water temps are just cooling off, just like every fall. And so as those water temps cool, you have to slow down. And I like to troll as fast as I can possibly get away with because you're covering more water, but you can only go so fast, only chase it so fast. So like say 0.9 to 1 has just been the sweet spot here for the last little bit. So that's where we're at, and probably next week we might have to slow down even a little further.
What's interesting to me is we're talking about reservoir fishing here, but this exact same technique is what they're doing for those big walleye in the mid-Columbia from the Tri-Cities down to Umatilla and Boardman, isn't it?
Absolutely, and lots of really nice fish in the fall caught down on the river.
Getting back to Potholes Reservoir, how big do the walleye get here? What's the biggest one you've pulled out in recent years?
I had a customer catch a 13.79 pounder. That was last September.
That definitely qualifies as a trophy walleye. And let's talk about what a good day looks like in your mind as a guide in terms of numbers of fish per client.
Well, we have an 8-fish limit, and I don't know, if you can put 5 or more per person in the boat, you had a good day. That's kind of my thought process. I'd just soon see the limit reduced to 5 per person, but the state has a different opinion in their continuing war on walleye.
And you're right, and that's probably a whole different subject because, we have listeners in Montana and Wyoming that are thinking, we love walleye. What's wrong with walleye? But in Washington State, I think you'll agree with me, there is a clear bias against these fish by a lot of biologists, isn't there?
If it's not a trout, a salmon, or a steelhead, they would just soon see it gone, and it makes no sense. And the popularity of our walleye fishing has just exploded. You got to fish on reel. Oh.
Swing and a miss, another swing and a miss, and that was my son, David Cruz. And this is an unfortunate fact. Unfortunately, but hold on. Dave from Toyota has got a fish on, and we're going to walk over here and see what it is. We're hoping it's a walleye. It's acting like a walleye, and it is a walleye. So that's number 3 in the boat. Dave, congratulations.
Thank you. Beautiful fish.
Absolutely, and that is one thing we need to talk about here. The color on these fish is just gorgeous, and the table fare on top of that, you just can't beat it, can you, Shelby?
They are just fabulous eating fish, and they just never get old.
So I'm going to follow you to the live well as we continue our conversation, and that's the great thing about this, folks. We can do this radio show on a boat on a beautiful October day. We can enjoy a great day of fishing, and you can do the exact same thing. Now that we've gotten through that flurry of excitement, lines are back in the water, and I want to go ahead and change the subject again from bias or not about walleye from our fisheries managers in different states, especially Washington State, back to walleye fishing itself, because we're coming into November, and the water's going to cool further, and at a certain point, I think we have to start talking about blade baiting. When do you start doing that when it comes to walleye fishing?
I have friends who have been blade baiting already for the last couple weekends and doing really well. I like it when the water's 50 or even colder. That's prime blade baiting to me, is when the water's 50 or colder.
And when it comes to blade baiting, and I'm pretty sure I know who you're talking about here. It's a couple named Steve and Barb Brady, who are some of the finest local walleye anglers I know of in the Columbia Basin. They love blade baiting. I know you know how to do it too. Any favorite colors when it comes to Pothole Reservoir, and any favorite sizes in terms of weight for the blade baiting, and how deep?
We generally fish half-ounce blade baits, and for years and years you could fish any color you wanted as long as it was silver. Now, silver and gold bodied, along with different prism tape colors, and just every day is a different experiment. And the half-ounce weight, fish on.
And Rusty Johnston, Northwestern Outdoors pro staffer, now has a fish on as well. It's a very, very small fish, but it's a fish on. So everybody has had a fish on in just the last 10 minutes, which tells you how good the fishing can be here at Potholes Reservoir. We have got to go, but before we do, I know that you're turning your attention to hunting for the rest of the year, but you're going to be walleye fishing in the spring, you're going to be walleye fishing in the summer, and walleye fishing next fall. If people want to book a trip with you here on Potholes Reservoir or some other Eastern Washington reservoirs, what's the website to go to?
Potholesfishing.com.
That's potholesfishing.com, potholesfishing.com. book a great walleye fishing trip, book a cast and blast trip. As you just heard, we're having a ball. You're going to have a ball too. Comfortable boat to fish off of, lots of space to do so, and Shelby is just a fun guy to spend a day with. Shelby, thanks again for a great day and for sharing this with us at Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thank you for being here.
Jigger around. I'm on a jig, jig me up a walleye right now.
Backcountry hunters and anglers, the men and women working hard to keep public lands in public hands. Check us out at backcountryhunters.org.
I'm gonna take you fishing, honey. You're gonna love it. Gonna get up before the sun and rise above us. Got a bamboo pole and a leaky boat. It ain't much, but
welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We continue to broadcast from our cast and blast adventure on Potholes Reservoir in eastern Washington. And we're doing some fishing right now. As a matter of fact, as you just heard in our last segment, we've been having a great day of fishing. We've been catching walleye. We've been catching bass. We've been catching bluegill. We've been catching bullhead. And we've been catching them at a fast and furious pace. And so the question is, why aren't more young people getting involved with fishing and hunting? We're going to do a round table here, talking to the different people in the boat and try to figure out why this is and what we can do to change this. So we're going to start off with my son, David Cruz, who is a senior at Central Washington University. Now, David, you didn't have a choice. You were going fishing and hunting with your dad, whether you liked it or not. But how many of your friends go fishing and hunting?
Well, that's correct. I didn't really have much of a choice on this one, but I have a few friends that do a lot of fishing and hunting. However, it's not as many as I would like. I have a lot of friends that are involved in the outdoors. However, they just haven't gotten the fishing and hunting bug.
You know, and it's funny because you have grown to love fishing and hunting on your own, and you do it a lot. But I've noticed that generally you do it alone because a lot of your friends don't want to participate.
Well, yeah, that's part of it. It's just due to the fact that a lot of my friends don't necessarily have that initiative to want to go and fish and hunt. And I believe there's several reasons for that. Number one, I think that a lot of my friends who are into the outdoors want to focus on hiking, bird watching, stuff that doesn't necessarily involve harming animals, if that makes sense.
Sure, it makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, you know, you and I feel differently about this, and so does everyone else on this boat, but I get that. What about, though, people who just seem enamored with their cell phones, with their iPads, that just don't seem to spend any time outdoors at all?
Well, that's their loss. I think that a lot of people, at least in my generation, they don't feel the need to go out and experience the great outdoors.
Well, there is a viewpoint from a young man who does love hunting and fishing. Let's talk to Northwestern Outdoors pro staffer Rusty Johnson. You live right next to two places that attract a lot of families and a lot of people coming for the outdoors. MarDon Resort, very popular place here on Potholes Reservoir, and Potholes State Park. Are you seeing more families or less families participating in the sports of fishing and hunting these days?
I think anymore over the past few years it's been less. I don't know why. I mean, I think that the people are so in tune with their world and working that they don't take the time to get the kids outdoors and think grabbing a tent and going into a parking lot, an RV resort is camping, and they need to get them out and they need to get them fishing and they need to get them hunting.
Well, I think we've touched on something here. You and I both grew up with both of our parents taking both of us fishing and hunting as kids, and it stuck big time. We're doing it together 40 plus years later. But a lot of families aren't doing that. What do we do to turn this around?
Well, I think, times have changed. The parents are at the age where all they want to do is work and make all this money to have all this stuff that they can do, but the hunting and the fishing, I mean, it's not something that they were trained to do or were involved in doing.
All right. Next up, Dave Mason. He works with an ad agency that does a lot of work with Toyota. You are an avid hunter, avid fisherman. You've got a great-looking lab that's right in front of you here. How do we change this? How do we get more people hunting and fishing? And your lab can talk about this too.
He'll be right here with me. He likes to be close. I think one of the big things is that a lot of the parents now have a lot more options for their kids. If you look at it in the same venue as what are you going to do with the limited amount of entertainment dollars that you have for your family? How many movies are you going to go to? How many times are you going to go out to dinner? It's not cheap to get into fishing and hunting in the outdoors, but there's opportunities abound to get out and do it with free fishing days. There's opportunities to have a 1 year kind of like a waiver that the kids can go out and still hunt. I think it's more of kind of like sports, the same thing too. You don't see a lot of kids getting into football per se because of the news that you hear about all the head injuries and things, but then you see them now. I'm seeing more kids flipping over into like lacrosse.
Right.
There's more opportunities for these parents to take them out on a Saturday for 2 hours with everybody else and socialize, get on a social media platform and post pictures of all the kids together and having a great time. But you also look on those feeds and you don't see a lot of the kids standing with a fish, with a duck, maybe with their dad or grandpa and a white-tailed deer. You don't see much of that anymore. And I think a lot of it is because of the cost, but then also there's so many more opportunities for parents to take them out and to get into, quote, team sports, where today we're on a fishing team together. We're fishing all together as kind of like a team in this boat. So they need to get out and do more of that. I think that's one of the big things. Just there's so many different opportunities for them out there. But we, as guys that fish and guys that hunt, we need to be more vigilant and getting more kids out here with us and bringing them and showing the opportunities and their parents as well that haven't done it.
Our next question comes to guide Shelby Ross. What do you do to get more people engaged in the outdoors, whether it be fishing or hunting?
Well, on our duck hunting trips, we've had a policy for years and years that the non-shooting kids go for free, and you get them hooked early, and they're excited to get a license, and once they do, then they're half price, and more often than not, they motivate Dad to come and hunt. So it's been a great program. Been doing it for years and years, and it just works.
And when it comes to fishing, anything that you or other guides do for kids generally to get them more into the sport, or is it just, I'm guessing it's a matter of fast and furious fishing as opposed to trophy fishing?
You know, anybody who's going to book a trip with kids, I recommend the half day instead of a full day. A 10-hour day is just a long day. It's a long day for me, much less, an 8-year-old. And yeah, faster action definitely keeps them entertained. I see tons and tons of families who are here just to get the kids away from their phone, just even for a few hours. So I kind of see a lot of interest in the fishing. Lots and lots of families just getting out of the city, just coming and doing it. And, the fishing, they can pick up in a half day. They can come and be fairly proficient and have a chance to go catch walleye, just without a big commitment. The hunting is a little bit different gig, and I think lots of people don't hunt because their family didn't hunt, their neighbor didn't take them hunting, and they wouldn't know where to start.
But we are lucky from this point of view that most of the fish and wildlife agencies here in the Northwest, whether it be Oregon, whether it be Montana, whether it be Washington, they've got a lot of programs to get new people in the sport. And a lot of those are oriented towards youth. Some of them are oriented towards families. And some of them are oriented specifically for women. So, folks, if you know somebody who is not fishing, not doing hunting, but has any interest at all, introduce them, and this is one way to do it. Do it through a guide, do it through a mentor, do it through a friend who does it, or do it through your local or state fish and wildlife agencies. There's lots of ways to get outdoors, and as everybody on this boat knows, once you do it, you're hooked. Isn't that true, David?
Yep.
On that note, any parting thoughts, Rusty Johnston?
The only thing I can say is we just need to get the kids outdoors and get them hooked on hunting and fishing, because getting out in the outdoors is the great way to spend a day.
And Dave Mason will give the last word to you.
Fish on.
And that is exactly how we get people hooked on the sport. David's reeling another one in, and stick around. We've got more coming up on this Cast and Blast edition of Northwestern Outdoors Radio, and we've just got a big walleye in the boat.
Gonna get up before the sun rise above us. Got a bamboo pole and a leaky boat. It ain't much, but if you bail, it'll float. I'm gonna take you fishing, honey. You're gonna love it.
Cast and blast your way across eastern Washington's Columbia Basin this fall with guide Shelby Ross. Shelby is an expert when it comes to walleye and bass in Potholes Reservoir, Moses Lake, and Banks Lake. Shelby can also take you out on a field hunt for geese or out for a morning of duck hunting and a lunch of kabobs. Trust me, you'll love it. Can't decide whether to cast or blast? Go on a combo trip. Book now at potholesfishing.com or ducktaxi.com. That's potholesfishing or ducktaxi.com.
This year, my daughter is deer hunting for the first time, and what she learns is more important than bagging that first buck. Responsibility, safety, conservation, and the beauty of our natural world. Deer hunting is an American tradition that teaches lessons for life. A message from this station and Whitetails Unlimited.
Tired of the same old fishing hole? Then head to Northeast Oregon's Wallowa County. Enjoy a weekend on the glacial waters of Wallowa Lake, where you can troll for the deep water excitement of kokanee or cast your line for some trout fishing fun. Bring your float tube or canoe and enjoy fishing in some of Wallowa County's small lakes. Or don your waders and step into the clear waters of the Wallowa, Imnaha, or Grand Ronde rivers. Early to bed, early to rise, fish all day, and there'll be no need for lies when you fish the waters of Northeast Oregon's Wallowa County. Visit us online at wallowacountychamber.com.
Sportsman's Warehouse is America's premier outfitter, and with over 90 locations, you're sure to find a store near you full of the gear you need to succeed this hunting season. Firearms, ammo, archery equipment, decoys, clothing, boots, and more. You'll find it all at Sportsman's Warehouse. Better still, the knowledgeable staff can help you with tips and frequent in-store seminars, all designed to help you bag a trophy or a limit this hunting season. Find a location near you or shop online today at sportsmanswarehouse.com.
We've got time for one more shot of Northwestern Outdoors Radio with John Cruz.
Welcome back. It's time for your Sportsman's Warehouse Trivia Question of the Week. We've been talking a lot about duck hunting and walleye fishing during this show, but now I want to talk to you about a close relative of the walleye, the yellow perch. There is a lake in Idaho that is known as the best big perch fishery in the state, and it may well be the best big perch fishery in the entire Northwest. It's named after a mountain range in the Pacific Northwest, and this lake has given up state and world record perch weighing nearly 3 pounds over the last few years, especially through the ice during the winter. Do you know the name of this well-known perch fishing lake in Idaho? If you think you know the answer, go to our website. You'll find it at northwesternoutdoors.com and go to the Contact Us page and give us your answer there. Or if you do Facebook, go to our Facebook page. You'll find that at Northwestern Outdoors Radio. If you haven't already, like and follow our page, then look for the post and give us your answer there. One lucky person who gets this question right is going to win the $25 gift card we give away every single week from America's premier outfitter, and that'll come in really handy right now because, as you've heard, it is prime time for both fall hunting and fall fishing, and that gift card will go to some very good use at one of the local Sportsman's Warehouse stores near you, and they really are all over the place. There's like 90 locations now in the United States. The question again, what's the name of the best perch fishing lake when it comes to big trophy record-sized perch in the state of Idaho, a lake that's named after a mountain range in the Pacific Northwest? Give us your answer, and we will announce a winner after our last broadcast this weekend. While you're messing around on the internet, keep in mind you can listen to portions of this show and our sister show anytime you want, on demand on YouTube by subscribing to Northwestern Outdoors. That's our channel. It's Northwestern Outdoors, one word. Other places you can hear our show and our sister show, America Outdoors Radio, is on Podbean or Stitcher. Just follow America Outdoors Radio to hear this show and that show too. We hope you've enjoyed our Cast and Blast episode today on Eastern Washington's Potholes Reservoir with our guide and host, Shelby Ross. Shelby, as you may recall, is the owner of Ross Outdoor Adventures. He's very, very good at what he does. He's got great equipment, great fishing tackle, and he's going to get you into the birds and into the fish. And most importantly, he's just a great guy to spend a day with outdoors. You will have a lot of fun. If you want to spend a day with Shelby, whether it be to go hunting on the Potholes Duck Taxi or field goose hunting this season, or maybe walleye fishing in the fall or later in the spring and the summer, contact him through his website. You'll find it at potholesfishing.com. That website again, potholesfishing.com. That's all for this week. Until next time, take care, God bless, and make it a point to spend some time outdoors.
Wetlands are some of the most important ecosystems on Earth, but our wetlands are quickly disappearing. Find out how you can help. Join Ducks Unlimited today.